President Volodymyr Zelensky said before he'll consider peace talks, Russia must meet one condition.
Stop shelling us, stop killing civilians.
It wants to continue to brutalize the Ukrainian people, wants to continue to shell their cities and towns.
In the last 12 months, Russia has killed tens of thousands of Ukrainian men, women, and children.
Uprooted more than 13 million people from their homes, bombed more than 700 hospitals, and yet the spirit of the Ukrainians remains unbroken. If anything, it's stronger than ever.
What happens when a supposedly impenetrable Russian ammunition depot, worth billions, is hit by drones, tanks, and robots in a single day? At Korochanski, Ukraine didn't just strike. They pulled off a synchronized assault that fused air power, electronic jamming, and subterranean demolition into one operation. The question is, how do you dismantle a fortress without getting swallowed by it? Stick around, because the answer isn't just firepower. It's a blueprint for modern war itself. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. How do you strike a depot so fortified that even heavy artillery couldn't scratch it?
Ukraine and Russia are exchanging fire on multiple fronts. Bridges are being destroyed, cities are burning, and oil depots are under attack.
All right, in other news, Russia has conducted fresh strikes on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Ukraine says Russian forces carried out 567 attacks over the last 24 hours.
At least 7 people were injured in a missile strike, while 2 others were hospitalized, and 23 private homes, 12 apartment buildings, and a post office suffered damage.
For Russian commanders, Korochanski wasn't just another warehouse. It was the heartline of their northern offensive, a vast complex feeding thousands of shells every single day into supply chains that kept Russian guns roaring across Ukraine's borderlands. Trains rolled in by the hour, convoys of trucks lined up in batches, moving pallets of shells, rockets, and propellant toward frontline units. Maps from both sides marked Korochanski as critical, but the Russian side treated it like a fortress that simply couldn't be breached. With reinforced concrete, blast doors sunk below ground, and multiple rings of missile defenses. It gave the impression of permanence. That sense of permanence built a myth around the depot, that no strike could ever actually reach its core. Conventional wisdom seemed to back it. Standard artillery, even with high explosive shells, barely pitted the outer compounds. Air raids faced the teeth of modern air defenses designed to swat missiles from the sky.
Biggest Russian drone and missile attack of the war. Ukraine says Moscow fired 550 drones and 11 missiles overnight.
To Russia launching a massive aerial assault against Ukraine, the biggest since the invasion more than 3 years ago.
Rescue workers say 1 person died and 26 were injured.
Armor on the ground would have to push past layered trenches, mine belts, and anti-tank positions before even reaching the outer fence. Any direct thrust risked burning through men and equipment at an unsustainable pace. The message from Moscow to its troops was simple. Korochanski was safe. Ukraine's response was not to try harder at the same methods, but to change the equation. Instead of a blunt strike, they built something far more complex, integrating drones, jets, robotic machines, and electronic jamming into one continuous rhythm. Rather than searching for a single weakness in the depot's walls, the plan aimed at multiple layers at once, peeling back defenses until the depot's size became its biggest vulnerability. The opening move began before the defenders even realized they were in a fight. At altitude, Ukrainian F-16 and MiG-29s released swarms of loitering munitions from 25,000 feet, the drones descending almost invisibly at first. Alongside them, decoy systems filled the radar picture with false echoes. Russian operators, staring at screens inside hardened bunkers, suddenly faced a sky that looked multiplied. Real targets scattered among dozens of artificial ones. The confusion sharpened as signal jammers ignited across the electronic spectrum. Electronic warfare trucks positioned miles away sent out beams that scrambled GPS signals and fractured the fire control radars guiding Russian interceptors. Radars began to blink and reset themselves as if blindfolded. Air defense crews turned in circles, no longer sure which tracks were missiles, which were drones, or which were ghosts. For the first time, the perimeter weapons were firing without clarity, wasting expensive interceptor missiles against decoys while real threats slipped in. The sense of superiority that surrounded Korochansky started to crumble, not with explosions, but with silence and misdirection. Meanwhile, on the ground, Leopard 2 tanks took positions covering the main approach roads. They weren't there to storm. Their job was to pin down any counterattacking armor. Remote-controlled robots moved behind them, laying minefields across exit routes, quietly sealing the depot's escape hatches. At the same time, aerial drones hovered above the compound, directing artillery shells with laser markers. Instead of carpet fire, each shell landed with precision, striking bunkers disguised under camouflage nets, one after another. Crews inside those bunkers soon realized that hiding offered no safety once drones orbited above, transmitting every coordinate back to long-range guns. Beneath the surface, the operation gained another dimension. Mine-clearing robots rolled forward toward buried magazines, some dug nearly 40 feet underground. They scanned soil density, looking for disguised voids that betrayed underground storage. Alongside them worked trained dogs, detecting traces of propellant fumes escaping from vents. The mix of machines and animals mapped out the locations of deep reserves, giving Ukrainian gunners exact points to target with warheads built to punch downward into caverns. Piece by piece, the multi-domain strike unraveled what artillery alone had never managed. The depot, said to be invulnerable, was open like a lockbox. Its concrete walls were still strong, but the defenses above them were stripped away, its supply arteries cut, its underground vaults exposed. For the Ukrainian side, the operation proved that air superiority, combined with jamming power and robotics, could turn static fortresses into fragile targets. But with the outer rings gone and the complex exposed, the next stage demanded the most difficult move of all, bringing everything together for demolition while surviving the inevitable Russian counterattack. Korochansky showed that a massive depot, measured in billions, could fall in a single operation. What artillery could not achieve was solved by combining drones, robotic machines, electronic warfare, and fighters in one synchronized strike. Hours replaced months of grinding bombardments. The lesson is not just about this depot, but about the wider picture. If one site of such scale can be unraveled so quickly, how secure are command posts, fuel reserves, or rail junctions hidden deeper behind the lines? The strike on Korochansky did more than destroy weapons. It reshaped how supply chains survived modern war.